So sticking with you finding your why, what did you discover that was missing in your medical practice that you found in this entrepreneurial journey?
One was just excitement again, right? Like as the excitement to like be a part of something new and to innovate, right? And the potential to disrupt or change. Something that I think as clinicians we find hard to accept. We look for so much evidence, scientific evidence to make a change in the way we care for people. But really when you got into entrepreneurship, you're moving on the fly, right? You're making decisions that you're reevaluating and then changing again. Things that we call pivoting in business, right? Especially in the startup world. And I think as I started to go through that, what really happened was I got to surround myself with like minded people. And then when I was surrounded by the right minded people and I had this team of people who looked at things the way I did, it became so much more fulfilling to wake up each day and go to work and work on these projects. I was in a great medical practice. It was very large. It was a large, practice and we were thriving, but we weren't innovating and it was hard to be me in that situation. And so I realized when I had removed myself from that situation and surrounded with people that were more like me, that it really was getting me back on the path to where I really wanted to go and where I feel like I belong in life.
So you and I have talked about pivoting a lot offline. And as you made this pivot, right? You made a pivot from your medical career into a complete different industry and your entrepreneurial journey. Within that journey, you had to pivot. Were there skills, new skills that you had to learn or be trained on or develop as you went through that journey?
Yeah, so I think what really I learned was what leadership really looks like. See, as a physician, you're at the top, right? The decision maker is you. And generally, okay, everyone else just follows what you say to do. And in order to be an effective leader as an entrepreneur, you have to really take your whole team into consideration, understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and not just necessarily be like, okay, well, I got to get better at this. It's surround yourself with people that can help you towards to get to that goal. So leadership also came by listening. Okay. And listening became so important, not just listening to people in a room, but listening to what your customer's saying, listening to what the data is telling you, right? And saying, okay, now based on that, let's change, create, and execute. So the other piece I learned really well was how to effectively execute and manage people towards a path of execution. But Rishabh, it wasn't taking like this course or taking like an MBA. It was just being down in the weeds is the best education that you can really get. And so I think for me, those were the two most important things that I got to learn through that process.
So you said something as you answered this question, which was doctors usually are on the top and they're used to giving out orders. This question could be controversial, but it really just borderlines on stereotypes. Doctors are stereotypically accused of having a large ego and a god complex. It's often said that doctors don't understand business, and that in the business world, as we discussed, you need to pivot, you need to adapt, and you need to do what's needed. So, one, do you think this assessment is true? And how did you go about it?
So the thing that I learned was that, and this is funny, if you go back to my clinical practice and you go to some of my closest assistants who I worked with for a while and loved working for me, they were always still a little bit on edge and afraid of me. And it was because I think as physicians, we lose some vulnerability. And I'm not really sure that we do that intentionally. I think what happens is that, you think about it, physician is one of the professions that are most highly regarded, especially in certain cultures. And you walk around and people are like, "Oh, you're a doctor. That's amazing. You're a doctor." And then you have to go through all these hurdles to get there, right? You got to be at the top of your class. You got to have the best scores. You've got to do the best in residency. So that significance gets created along the way. And I learned this, by, some of my personal growth involved Tony Robbins. And I realized for me as a physician, I was stuck in significance. My profession made me significant. So when we tried to hold on to that, okay, we got what you're talking about sort of is this feeling of a God complex, right? And then when you realize that it wasn't really about being significant, but more about like growth and contribution, right? How can I connect with other people? Then a lot shifted. And I think, a lot of times we look at physicians this way, but a lot of it is just the way we are educating and training ourselves to become physicians often causes us to become something that we really aren't deep in our hearts, but we kind of take that all away and we close up and stand behind this white coat. And when you start to shift that and take this off, like, like wear a hoodie to like a podcast, it's like it's just be you and let your personal identity come out, then a lot of that just goes away. And you still realize people value what I have to say and what I'm trying to provide. So that really was the real shift for me in my life.
So you still didn't answer the question. Do you think doctors do they not understand business?
Oh, that part. So no, I think doctors understand business, but it's the frame in which doctors relate to business. Okay. And the way a lot of physicians relate to business is, how does it impact me? How does this directly involve income in my pocket? A lot of times. Okay. And when you only look at yourself in a silo, it's hard to really grow something as a business. Okay. It's hard to innovate because we always used to joke about this in our practice. It's like, well, as long as it doesn't affect my rice bowl, right? But what we have to realize is we can understand business, okay? But sometimes we don't need to understand all of it, and we need to lean on the people that understand it better than us. It's like calling a friend or another physician for a consult on a specialty that you're not in, and allow them to explain it to you or give you an opinion. And then you'll be able to make a decision on ultimately what to do with the situation that you're in. So I think some are extremely strong. Some of us are extremely strong and some of us are weak, but it is something that can be learned.